Welcome to Daily Armor. Today we're going to be in Isaiah chapter 58, looking at verse 14. We will only get through the very first little phrase of verse 14 because there's a lot more studying that I need to continue to do with it. But let's look at verse number 14, and I'll read the whole thing and then we'll concentrate on the very first part. It says, then, so we had that if. In the previous devotion, it was the if. It was that last warning. It was that if you'll not do what you want to do, if you will not go where you want to go, if you will not say what you want to say, but will submit to what God wants, then, so we have our last then in Isaiah 58, then shalt thou delight thyself in the Lord, and I will cause thee to ride upon the high places of the earth, which just excites me, and feed thee with the heritage of Jacob, which I've got to do some more studying, thy father, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken it, which is absolutely just, I was excited to talk about this verse this morning and just think about that there's so many things that we have to do. And God, all he has to do is say it. It says, for the mouth of the Lord hath spoken it. So when we're thinking about all those ifs, and we're like, oh gosh, I don't know if I'm able to do this. I don't know if I've got it in me. I don't know if I can keep focused long enough. I don't know if I can be not distracted. I don't know if I can, live up to my side of it. But by God's help, he will help us do what we can't do. I have experienced this past year, 2023, of so many circumstances that were beyond what I was able to do, what my husband was able to do. But I've experienced that just simply by the mouth of the Lord, and what he said made the difference, makes all the difference every time. But what I want us to concentrate on this morning is just that first part, and then we'll, over maybe the next few devotions, get into the rest of it. But just that shalt thou delight thyself in the Lord. Delight. If something is a delight, it is, it makes you happy. It makes you like giddy, merry, I even liked one of the definitions that I found. It said, make sport over. And I'm like, make sport over. It made me think of that, my senior year in high school, I was voted best school spirit. Why? Because at the games, my mouth could be heard, and I would be cheering them on. I would be shouting. I wasn't even a cheerleader. I was giving it my all. I was really, really being supportive and being excited for the team. And when we made a play or a touchdown or whatever, in basketball or football or whatever, I got best school spirit because of my enthusiasm, my excitement that I brought as a spectator. And I'm thinking, like, when I make sport of it, I'm kind of thinking that, like that, make merry over, to make sport of. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's exciting, that I'm going to be more delighted. What it means is God saying that if I will do that if in verse number 13, if I will not do thine own way, if I will not be finding my own pleasure, be figuring out, be trying to say, well, I know what's going to make me happy. And this is what I've got to do. If I will get rid of all that, give up all that, and if I won't say my own, not speaking my own words, if I will not say what I want to say and use enough control and patience to bite my tongue and to be patient and to kind of watch and wait and ponder and see how things are going to play out and see what God has in store. If I will just, even when I don't know how this is going to turn out and I don't know what's coming, and it, and those things that, that can make us a little bit nervous or uncomfortable, and we want, that security. But our security, there's nothing on this earth that can give us security except the Lord. And he's the only place that we can put our security in. That's why it says, shalt thou delight thyself in the Lord. I'm not going to delight myself in my ideas, in my, I'm not moving, I'm not going, I'm not doing this, I won't go there, I won't be a part of that, I won't. Like my granddaughter, I mean, it makes me think of, my granddaughter gives me so many examples. It's crazy. She gives me so many examples of what a bad attitude looks like, of what a rebellious spirit looks like, of what a strong-willed child looks like to me. And then I have to think, when I'm being that strong-willed child, that's what I look like to the Lord. And so she provides me with just endless examples, and shows me what, when I'm trying to pitch a fit about this, and I'm going to show them, or I'm going to show him, or I'm going to do this, what I'm going to do this, whether somebody wants me to or not. When I get in those attitudes, she provides me with those examples, and I'm like, oh, that's what I look like, right, Lord? And I'm like, I got to quit that. That's ridiculous. Because then I know, as being her a caregiver, that when she calms down and when she acts right and when she gets a correct attitude, then we have the ability to go places, to do things, to experience things. There's a lot of things that I don't take her to do because I don't trust her to act accordingly. And I took my children everywhere. And I was very strict with them and very hard on them because I required them to act a certain way. And if they didn't, I would jerk them up, and we would go out to the car. They would go get a spanking. I mean, I would remove them from the situation, and I would say, okay, I guess we can't do that anymore, because y'all don't know how to act. And so when I think about those times of raising my children, and I was able to do a lot of stuff with them, because they did learn how to act and they did know how to act. Now, they could get out of hand, of course, when we weren't around people. They would look around and they would be like, oh, I can pitch a fit now, nobody's around. But they did at least know how to act whenever, they were in a crowd. And again, when they had those moments where they couldn't take it anymore, whether we were in church or in a restaurant or at an event or, whatever it might be, somebody's house, then I would remove them from the situation, and we would have to take care of it, as God does us so often. But as an adult, I should be able to recognize that in myself. And the Lord is saying, okay, if you're not adamant that you have to have your own way, and you're thinking that, either it's time or it's not time, or whatever the case may be, if you're not saying, well, I know what's going to make me happy, Lord, I have to have this, or I have to do this, or I have to be a part of this, or whatever the case may be. And if you're going to be like, well, Lord, I'm just going to say whatever thought comes in my head, I'm just going to say it. And the Lord's like, no, that's not appropriate. That's not the kind of behavior that I can use and do something with. And I love this whenever we submit and push all that stuff aside, and we submit to what God wants, when he wants it, how he wants it. And he puts up those boundaries, and he's given us that structure, because that's what my granddaughter needs. She needs, we have a routine, we have structure. Not that things, can't get out of hand sometime. I mean, she just turned 3 years old last week. But for the most part, she needs that structure, and she responds to that structure. So then we go back, and she will calm down, and then we can proceed forward then. And then I think about that in my own life, and how this delighting in myself in the Lord is what he has for me, what he wants for me, and that he has so much better in store for me than I could ever come up with myself. He's going to take better care of me than I can take care of myself. He's going to allow me to experience things that I would not be able to afford or think of. Maybe I never even dawned on me. I'll tell you, it never dawned on me to live in Florida, and yet we've been here about 15 years, and I know at first I sure didn't like it, but I can't imagine living anywhere else. I love it here. But again, whatever God has in store for me, whatever he wants me to do, when I put that attitude aside, that I have bad attitude aside, and I submit, and I'm like, okay, Lord, I'm excited to see what else you have in store, because I can't take care of me like you can take care of me. I'm always going to fall short. I'm always going to leave myself it's always going to cost me more than what I can imagine. And so another one of these definitions that when I was looking up this delight in thyself, that thou shalt delight thyself, it was speaking of being pampered and being dainty. And I'm like, I'm not very dainty, but the Lord has sure put me in some circumstances that has made me very pampered and taken care of. And as I fight against that sometimes, or I was fighting against that, and still probably struggle with that more than I would like to, then I have to think about that. But what He has for me, he's being the dad. He's being my heavenly Father. He's being that perfect Father that knows that maybe He's got these boundaries and this structure for me. But when I just, when I'm just okay with it physically and emotionally, it's not just the physically doing what He wants me to do, but it's about the attitude behind it as well. Then I'm going to get to have that delight, that happiness, that joy, that contentment. And I love this definition in this little phrase. It said, be soft or pliable. And I'm like, then we're the clay and we're pliable. When we're soft and we're pliable and God's, He's working with us and He doesn't throw us away. He's going to keep getting out those impurities. And I feel like that's what He's been doing in my life for all these 23 years. He's constantly, running that wheel, got His hand on me, and He's pushing out those impurities. He's pushing out those things that He doesn't want to be a part of my life. And it's making me soft and pliable and dainty. And I'm not a dainty person, and being pampered. And so when I think about, that my husband, who takes very good care of me, but I realize that it's really not even him that's doing it. It's that God allows him to take very good care of me. And if I was constantly thinking that Todd was who took care of me, then I would be worried, what am I going to do if my husband dies first? What am I going to do if something happens to Todd? I don't want anything. I mean, I absolutely don't want anything to happen to him. But that's not reality either, is it? One of us is going to go first, unless the Lord comes back, and then we both get to go at the same time, which would be glorious, would be wonderful. We would just go at the same time and whisk into heaven at the same time. But my security is not even in my husband, who's a wonderful man, a wonderful husband. But my security is in that I have watched God do with him what He wasn't able to do. I have watched God take care of him. And as I've watched Him take care of him, and I've realized that my security is not in my husband. It's not in anything but the Lord. In the Lord. Delight thyself in the Lord. And if I do these ifs, then I'm going to delight myself in the Lord. And there's going to be things He's going to show me, and He's going to show you, and you're going to experience things with the Lord. Not that every day is going to be perfect or beautiful. There's going to be rain, there's going to be storms, there's going to be hurricanes and tornadoes and traffic jams and accidents and flat tires and sickness and illness and cancer and all these things that are out there. But God's saying, but I'm going to constantly be there with you, and I'm going to provide for you, and I'm going to bring joy to your life, even in the midst of all these other things, because my focus is not in something else or someone else, but in the Lord. So wherever you're at in life, and maybe you're feeling not satisfied, or you're thinking, is this all there is? Is this all that my life's going to be? The Lord's saying, if you keep having a bad attitude, that's all it's going to be. If you keep, just doing what you want to do, that's all it's going to be. If you just keep saying whatever comes out, what comes through your mind, you just keep popping it out your mouth, then that's all it's going to be. But the Lord's saying, but if you want that true contentment, you want that true delight, that where you have joy and happiness that just burst through your life, and you are just, if you want that, you can have it. It comes with some ifs. And then you can get to experience some things that you never thought you could. Now, you may have some boundaries, and you may have some places that God's put you or going to place you or whatever that you didn't think you would ever be or would ever want to be. But when we leave all that up to the Lord, he says, you're going to delight thyself in the Lord. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you again soon.